What if I told you that $13.70 could change your financial life? Not $13,700, not a $13,000 bonus, $13.70. It doesn't sound like much. In fact, most of us can spend $13.70 without even thinking about it. Lunch, a couple of subscriptions, a delivery fee, and tip. One of those quick store runs where you went in for toothpaste and somehow left with a candle, a throw pillow, and $87 worth of things you absolutely did not go there to buy. Individually, none of those purchases feels like a big financial decision. But here's what happens when we stop looking at $13.70 as a single purchase and start looking at what happens when that amount repeats. $13.70 a day is almost $5,000 a year. And $5,000 a year? Now, we're talking about real money. That's money that could pay down debt, build an emergency fund, or be invested and given the opportunity to compound for years, even decades. And no, this isn't one of those videos where I'm going to tell you that your morning coffee is the reason you're not wealthy. Buy the coffee. The point isn't that you should never spend $13.70. The point is that small amounts of money stop being small when they happen over and over again. And once you understand that, you can start making those small amounts work for you, instead of wondering where all your money went. That's what I call the 1370 rule. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how it works. Let's start with the math. $13.70 doesn't feel like much money, but multiply it by 365 days and you get $5,000. That's roughly $96 a week, $417 a month, and $5,000 a year. Now here's where this gets interesting. Most of us don't experience that money as $5,000. We experience it $13.70 at a time. And psychologically, those are two very different things. If I asked you right now, would you spend $5,000 this year on things you barely remember buying? You'd probably say no, but that's rarely how the decision shows up. Instead, it's $8 here, $12 there, $17 somewhere else, a subscription you forgot to cancel, a delivery charge because you didn't feel like driving, something you tossed into your cart because why not? None of those decisions feels important enough to affect your financial future, and that's exactly why they can. Because when it comes to money, we tend to pay attention to the big decisions: the car, the house, the vacation, the $2,000 purchase. But we don't always pay attention to the small decisions that quietly repeat hundreds of times. And I'm not saying all of that spending is bad. Some of it may bring you joy, some of it may save you time, and some of it may be absolutely worth every penny. Keep that spending. The 1370 rule isn't about cutting everything you enjoy out of your life. It's about identifying the money you're spending that isn't actually adding much to your life, and asking a different question. What could this money do for me instead? Because $5,000 can do a lot. For someone living paycheck to paycheck, it could be the beginning of an emergency fund. For someone carrying credit card debt, it could help break a very expensive cycle. For someone who's already financially stable, it could become $5,000 invested toward their future. Same $13.70. Completely different job. And that's really the principle behind this entire video. Small money isn't small when it's recurring. The question is whether you're going to let it disappear or give it somewhere better to go. And before you can redirect it, you have to figure out where your 1370 is hiding. So, where is your 1370 hiding? Because chances are it's not going to show up as one neat little 1370 charge on your bank statement every day. It might be $4 here, $9 there, $20 somewhere else. And that's the point. You're looking for money that's already leaving your account, but isn't giving you much in return. Maybe it's a streaming service you haven't watched in 6 months, an app you forgot you were paying for, a membership you swore you were going to use. Delivery fees, bank fees, impulse purchases, or those little convenience expenses that have slowly become automatic. And I want to be very clear about something. I'm not asking you to cut everything you enjoy. If you love getting your nails done, get your nails done. If Friday night dinner with your friends is something you look forward to all week, keep it. If that ridiculously overpriced coffee makes you happy every morning, enjoy your coffee. Because the goal isn't to create a life where you save every possible dollar, but hate living it. The goal is to become more intentional about which things are actually worth your money. So instead of asking, what can I cut? I want you to ask, what am I paying for that I don't actually value? That's a very different question, and one of the easiest ways to answer it is to pull up your last 30 days of transactions, your bank account, your credit cards, your payment apps. And just look. Don't judge yourself. Don't start calculating how much money you should have. Just look for the things that make you say, wait, I'm still paying for that? Or, I spent how much on that last month? That's where your 1370 may be hiding. And here's something else that's important. Your number doesn't actually have to be 1370. Maybe right now you can only find $3 a day. That's about $90 a month. Maybe it's 7. That's more than $200 a month. Maybe you discover that you're spending $20 or $30 a day on things you barely care about. Great. Because 1370 isn't the goal. It's a way of seeing your money differently. Once you've found yours, the next step isn't simply to stop spending it. Because if you don't give that money somewhere else to go, there's a very good chance you'll just spend it on something different. So we're going to give it a job. And I want to show you just how different your financial life can look depending on the job you choose. Let's imagine 3 people. Same $13.70. Same 365 days. Same $5,000 a year. But each person gives that money a completely different job. Let's start with person number 1. Person 1 keeps doing exactly what they've always done. They spend it. The 1370 comes in, and eventually it goes out. Maybe they spend it on things they genuinely enjoy. Maybe they don't. But at the end of 1 year, roughly $5,000 has passed through their hands. After 5 years, that's about $25,000. After 10, about $50,000. Now I want to be careful here. I'm not saying that person has wasted $50,000. Money is also supposed to help you enjoy your life. Trips matter, experiences matter, dinner with people you love matters. Sometimes even the candle and the throw pillow matter. The question is whether you chose those things, or whether the money simply disappeared without you ever deciding what you wanted it to do. That's the difference. Now let's look at person number 2, the saver. Person 2 finds their 1370 and redirects it into savings. After 1 year, they've accumulated roughly $5,000, and suddenly something changes. The car needs a repair, there's money for it, an unexpected bill shows up, there's a cushion. Life happens. Maybe it doesn't immediately have to go on a credit card. That 1370 hasn't made this person wealthy, but it has bought them something incredibly valuable: breathing room. And breathing room changes the way you make financial decisions. Because when every unexpected expense is an emergency, you're constantly reacting. Savings gives you the ability to respond instead. And depending on where you're starting, that may be the best first job for your money. Now let's meet person number 3, the investor. Person 3 takes that same, roughly $5,000 a year, and invests it, not chasing the hottest stock, not trying to turn 1370 into $1 million overnight, just consistently investing in a diversified portfolio and allowing time to do what time does. And this is where the story of that $13.70 begins to change. Because person 1's money stops working once it's spent. Person 2's money is still there, providing stability and liquidity. But person 3 has given that money the opportunity to produce more money. Their contributions can earn returns. Those returns can earn returns. And over enough time, something starts happening that is incredibly important to understand. The money you earn from your investments can begin doing more of the work. That's compounding. And this is where $13.70 stops looking like $13.70. Because we're no longer talking about what that money can buy today. We're talking about what it could become over the next 10, 20, or even 30 years. So, let's actually run the numbers. And before I show you these numbers, I want to make one thing very clear. I'm not going to assume some crazy 15 or 20% return just to make this look impressive. Over the 30 years from 1996 through 2025, the S&P 500 returned an average of about 10.4% per year, including reinvested dividends. And that 30-year period wasn't exactly smooth sailing. It included the dot-com crash, the global financial crisis, COVID, inflation, recessions, bull markets, bear markets, and just about everything in between. But I'm not going to assume that the next 30 years will look like the last 30. So, for our example, we're going to bring that return down to 8%. We're going to start with $0, invest our $13.70 consistently, reinvest the dividends, and leave the money alone. Now watch what happens. After 5 years, you would have personally contributed about $25,000. But with investment growth, your account balance would be approximately $31,000. Not life-changing yet. But remember, we're just getting started. At 10 years, you've contributed about $50,000, but your account has grown to approximately $76,500. So now your money has made just over $26,000 for you. Let's keep going. At 20 years, you've personally contributed about $100,000, but your investment has grown to approximately $247,000. And this is where I want you to really pay attention, because at this point, you've contributed $100,000. But your money generated almost $147,000 in additional growth. Your money has now made more money than you put in. That's the moment I was talking about earlier. You're still contributing. You're still doing your part. But now your money is doing even more of the work. And then we get to 30 years. Over those 30 years, you would have personally contributed about $150,000. That's it. But at an 8% average annual return, your account could be worth approximately $625,000. You put in $150,000, and your money generated roughly $475,000. Let me say that again. You contributed $150,000, and your investments generated more than 3 times that amount in additional growth, all from starting with the equivalent of $13.70 a day. Now, if we ran this exact same example using the 10.4% average annual return the S&P 500 actually delivered over that 30-year period, the ending balance would be around $1 million. Same 1370, same 30 years, same consistency, different return. Now, that does not mean I'm telling you that your 1370 is guaranteed to turn into $1 million. It's not. The stock market doesn't give you 8% every year. Some years you'll make considerably more. Some years you'll lose money. And past performance does not guarantee what the market will do in the future. That's why I want you focused on the 8% example, not the $1 million headline. Because you don't need an extraordinary assumption for this to become extraordinary. At 8%, we're still talking about roughly $625,000. And here's the part I really want you to understand. The magic wasn't actually the $13.70. The magic was what happened when you combined a relatively small amount of money with consistency, compounding, and most importantly, time. Because time is doing something here that most people dramatically underestimate. In the beginning, you're doing most of the work. You're putting the money in, but eventually, your money starts working alongside you. And given enough time, your money can start working harder than you are. But there's one mistake I don't want you to make after seeing these numbers. I don't want you to think, great, I'll invest $13.70 a day for the rest of my life, and I'm done. Because $13.70 is where this habit can start. It doesn't have to be where it ends. Now, after seeing those numbers, it would be easy to think, okay, $13.70 a day, got it. But I don't want you to turn $13.70 into some magic number, because it's not. It's a starting point. Remember, the whole purpose of the 1370 rule is to show you what a relatively small amount of money can become when you're intentional about where it goes. But as your financial life changes, that number should change with you. Maybe today, $13.70 is all you can comfortably redirect. That's fine. Start there. Maybe you can only start with $5. Start there. But then you get a raise. What happens to the extra money? You pay off your car? What happens to that old car payment? You get a bonus, a promotion. Your business starts making more money. A debt disappears. Your kids finally come off the payroll. Don't let every extra dollar automatically become a more expensive lifestyle. Let some of it build wealth instead. Because this is where the 1370 rule can become much more powerful. Maybe 1370 eventually becomes $20 a day, then 25, then 40. Not because you're constantly depriving yourself, but because your ability to build wealth has grown. And one of the easiest ways to do this is to decide before the money arrives what you're going to do with it. Let's say you get a raise. You don't necessarily have to invest the entire thing. Enjoy some of it. Upgrade something that genuinely improves your life. Take the trip. Celebrate the promotion. But maybe you also decide that every time your income goes up, a portion of that increase automatically goes toward building wealth. That way, your lifestyle can improve, and your future can improve with it. Because one of the biggest financial traps isn't necessarily spending more money. It's allowing your spending to increase every single time your income increases. You make more, so you spend more. Then you make more again. And somehow you're still wondering why you don't feel any wealthier. The 1370 rule gives you another option. When more money comes into your life, some of it stays in your life. And there's another reason I want you to increase the amount when you can. Remember our 30-year example? Time did an enormous amount of the work, but not everybody watching this video has 30 years. Maybe you're starting at 45, or 50, or 60. That doesn't mean you shouldn't start. It means the amount you contribute becomes even more important. If you have less time for compounding to work, you may need to give it more money to work with. So don't look at 1370 as the finish line. Look at it as the amount that gets you moving. Start with what you can, increase it when you can, and keep going. But before you start sending that money into an investment account, there's one more question we need to answer. Because depending on your financial situation, investing may not be the first job your 1370 needs to do. So let's figure out where your money should actually go. Because I don't want someone watching this video with no emergency savings and thousands of dollars in high-interest credit card debt thinking, she told me to take my 1370 and put it in the stock market. That's not what I'm telling you. Remember our 3 people from earlier? One spent the money, one saved it, and one invested it. There was a reason I showed you all 3, because the best job for your 1370 depends on where you are financially. So here's a simple way to think about it. First, give yourself a small cash cushion. If you have absolutely nothing set aside for an emergency, start there. You don't necessarily need to have 6 months of expenses saved before you address anything else. But you do need something, because without a cash cushion, one flat tire, one unexpected copay, one broken appliance can send you straight back to a credit card. So your first $13.70 may need to create a little breathing room. Once you have that initial cushion, look at your debt. Next, attack high-interest debt. And when I say high-interest debt, I'm especially talking about things like credit card debt. Because if you're paying 20, 25, or even 30% interest on a credit card while hoping to earn 8% investing, the math is working against you. Paying off that high-interest debt can be one of the most powerful things you do with your money. But there's an important exception I don't want you to miss. Don't walk away from free money. If your employer offers a match on your 401k or another workplace retirement plan, find out what you need to contribute to receive the full match. Because that's part of your compensation. If your employer is willing to put money toward your retirement, because you're putting money toward your retirement, I don't want you casually leaving that money on the table. So even while you're getting the rest of your financial house in order, that employer match deserves your attention. Then, build the full emergency fund. Once the high-interest debt is under control, continue building your emergency savings. A common target is about 3 to 6 months of essential expenses. And remember, this money isn't supposed to make you rich. It's supposed to keep an emergency from making you poor. This is money you want accessible, not riding up and down with the stock market, not locked away somewhere you can't reach it when you need it. It's your financial safety net. And once you've built that foundation, let's build wealth. This is where investing can really begin to take center stage. Your 401k, IRA, HSA, if you're eligible and using it as part of your long-term strategy, or a regular brokerage account. And you don't need to invest in 30 different things. You don't need to become a day trader. You don't need to spend your evenings staring at stock charts. You need a strategy that makes sense for your goals and the discipline to keep funding it. So think about your 1370 in this order. Protect yourself. Stop expensive debt from draining you. Capture money your employer may be offering you. Build your safety net. And then put your money to work, building more money. Now, your exact order may look a little different depending on your circumstances. Personal finance is personal for a reason, but the larger principle doesn't change. Every dollar needs the right job at the right time. And once you've figured out what job your 1370 needs to do, there's only one thing left. We need to make sure it actually gets there. So now I want you to try this for yourself. For the next 30 days, I'm challenging you to find your 1370. And remember, it doesn't literally have to be $13.70. Maybe yours is $5. Maybe it's 10. Maybe after looking through your spending, you realize yours is actually 25. The amount isn't the most important part. The habit is. Start by going through the last 30 days of your spending. Look for the money that's leaving your account without giving you much in return. Not the things you love, not the things you genuinely value, the things you barely notice. Find that money and then redirect it. Don't just promise yourself that you're going to spend less, because we all know how that goes. Move the money somewhere. If you're building your cash cushion, send it to savings. If you're attacking high interest debt, send it toward the debt. If you're ready to invest, send it to your investment account, give the money a destination, and whenever possible, automate it. Set up the transfer, schedule the contribution, make it happen without requiring you to make the same decision over and over again. Because every time you have to decide whether to move the money, you're giving yourself another opportunity not to do it. Automation removes the decision. Now, if you actually redirect 1370 every day for the next 30 days, you'll have redirected approximately $411. Is $411 going to make you wealthy? No. But that's not what these 30 days are about. Because if you can redirect $411 in 1 month, you've just proven that you can redirect roughly $5,000 in a year. And if you can do it for 1 year, you can do it again and again. And as your income grows, maybe you increase it. That's how something that feels insignificant today can eventually become significant. Not because you made one huge financial decision, but because you made one small decision and then built a system that kept making it for you. And after 30 days, ask yourself one question. What happens if I keep going? Because that's really what the 1370 rule is about. It's not about $13.70. It's about realizing that the money you barely notice today could become money you absolutely notice later. And if your 1370 is ready to be invested, but you're wondering what exactly you should invest it in, I've got you. I recently created a complete guide showing you how I would build a diversified portfolio using just 3 ETFs, including the role each one plays and how I would adjust the allocation depending on your age and where you are in your financial journey. I'll link that video right here. And if this video helped you look at $13.70 a little differently, hit the like button. Subscribe to Wealth Whisperings if you haven't already. And in the comments, tell me, did you find your 1370? And more importantly, what job are you going to give it? Remember, money is the tool. Freedom is the goal. Never confuse the two. I'll see you in the next one.